The current method of using methadone and Suboxone in outpatient treatment facilities is making the problem worse. I am a recovering addict. I also own a sober living home for women. That being said, I have vast amounts of experience dealing with the different treatment centers that are out there, and I can tell you what works and what doesn't. While I will admit that the government has the best of intentions in using the methadone and Suboxone treatment in outpatient facilities, the problem is these facilities are being poorly managed. The purpose of this speech is to persuade you that the current method for using methadone and Suboxone in outpatient treatment facilities needs to change. First, we will take a look at the statistics of opioid abuse. Next, we will examine the ineffective methods in place today. And third, we will discuss what needs to change. First, let's talk about the statistics. These outpatient treatment facilities are giving out doses of highly addictive opioids or derivatives of opioids to combat the addiction people suffer from in opioids. According to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, 21 to 29% of people prescribed opioids misuse them. 8 to 12% develop an opioid use disorder. And 4 to 6% move on to heroin. 100% of opioid addicts who abuse opioids will suffer severe withdrawal symptoms, starting as early as 12 hours after the last use and lasting up to 10 days. The CDC states that 130 Americans die from opioid overdose every day. Now that we have discussed the statistics of opioid abuse, let's take a look at the ineffective programs that are in place today. First, what is methadone? According to an article put out by the Addiction Center, methadone is a long-lasting, highly addictive derivative of opioids that their purpose is to reduce the euphoric effects of other opioids. Methadone has severe withdrawal symptoms. Again, they start as early as 12 hours, but with methadone, these withdrawal symptoms can last up to 30 days. They range from irritableness and anxiety to vomiting and diarrhea, and in some cases, death. Methadone alone is responsible for 3,194 overdose deaths in the year of 2017. Let's take a look at these clinics that hand out methadone to people on the streets. These patients are either cash-paying patients or have private health insurance, but it doesn't stop there. Here in the South, you can actually apply for Medicaid to pay for your methadone treatment. Patients line up every day in the morning about 5 a.m. to receive their daily dose. These doses go on up to 395 milligrams a day, and they're either given in tablet form or liquid form. After a certain amount of times and enough drug tests to prove that a patient is only using methadone, they're given what's called take-homes. They're given 3 days worth of doses. And if they're on up to 395 milligrams a day, that's a lot of methadone. These patients are in turn taking these drugs to the streets and selling them for either $10 a pill or, if it's in liquid form, $1 a milligram. This is causing an even bigger problem because now you're opening up these drugs to not only people who are not in a methadone treatment facility or in a planned period, but to people that are abusing their methadone treatments from the clinic now getting their hands on even more methadone and even furthering and deepening their addiction problem. The treatment program is supposed to last a minimum of 12 months. But these outpatient centers are allowing the addict to decide when they're ready to quit and when they're ready to start being stepped down and weaned off of these drugs. They're given these treatments to take home to an uncontrolled facility where there's no supervision and told you must take them as prescribed. I'm here to tell you, people, addicts do not take prescriptions as prescribed. They cannot do it. Let's talk about Suboxone treatments. Suboxone, again, a highly addictive 2-part drug made up of buprenorphine and naloxone. The purpose of these drugs is to create a ceiling effect. In other words, the dose peaks at a certain point and then fully shuts down the opiate receptors. Problem is, these drugs are prescribed by a physician who happens to agree that yes, their patient has an addiction to opioids. So again, the addict is taking home these drugs for 30 days at a time. They're turning around and selling their pills on the market for $10 a pill. So when another addict runs out of their prescription, they go to the streets to keep from getting sick. Because again, Suboxone has serious withdrawal symptoms. As you can see, these methods have the same common denominator. Both drugs are highly addictive with severe withdrawal symptoms. They're being handed to addicts to take home to an uncontrolled supervision place and told to use these drugs as prescribed, but instead, the drugs are winding up on the streets for others to get their hands on them. Addicts taking highly addictive drugs in an uncontrolled environment is a recipe for disaster and only drives them deeper and deeper into their addiction and hopelessness. Now that we have discussed how these methods are being poorly managed, let's talk about what needs to change. In-house treatment facilities. In these facilities, when a person moves in, not only are they first given a counselor, they are also given their doses in a highly monitored and controlled environment. They are watched to make sure they take the entirety of their dose right there in front of the prescriber. While living in these treatment facilities, they are given extensive counseling and group therapy sessions so they can deal with the deeper underlying issues that cause them to continue to make bad decisions and unable to live life on life's terms. When you couple a controlled environment and a controlled dose with extensive counseling, you have the answer to success. Furthermore, in these treatment facilities, they structurally step these people down. They are given a time frame when they walk in the door to be completely off of these drugs, therefore lessening the withdrawal symptoms and being able to safely quit these drugs and move on into a life of freedom away from drugs and alcohol abuse. In closing, even though the current situation of the opioid crisis seems bleak, there is hope. With a few changes in the way that we use these two drugs, we can turn this fight around, get rid of the outpatient treatment facilities, and open up more in-house detox facilities that are structured and have counseling in there with them. We have now covered the program statistics, ineffective methods that are in place now, and what needs to change. In closing, I have now done my best to persuade you that methadone and Suboxone programs need to be changed. Thank you.